Well, all right, we'll see if anybody else is gonna join us. Or if it's just we got one on Zoom too. I don't know what the deal is. I emailed out a ton of people that need class, but. Anyway. So tell me what the relation is with you two.
Brothers, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you look like you should be brothers, but.
We get cousins a lot, so.
Yeah?
that's good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. All right, so we're gonna go through, we're gonna talk about the company foundation. Just make sure you got everything muted on here. All right. So ultimately, I guess kind of what I want to do with this is give you the background of the company. And so really today's kind of more of the idea is getting you the background of what the objectives, all of that were with the company when it was created. So in 2009, George, John, Rob Oakey, and then two other people that aren't with, well, one's still with the company, but you'll never meet her. She's the CFO. And then one other person, we're sitting around a conference room table. Now, what was happening with the real estate market in 2009? Remember?
That was the crash, right?
Yeah. So essentially everything's imploding as far as real estate goes. And I remember at that time in real estate, it was a scary time. And really, I would say there's two times that I've really been scared in real estate. The first one was then is when the market started to just tank. And then the second time was 2 years ago in March, about this time in March, when I was like, what is going to happen to like the real estate world with this, which is funny because the exact opposite of what we thought was going to happen happened with real estate. But there was like a 30-day window there where it was kind of like, what's going to really happen? Is anybody going to keep selling houses and buying houses? But so we go back to 2009. So in 2009, these five people are sitting around the table, and George Morris, who's the CEO. Have you guys met George? Yeah. Okay. He was actually, I don't know if he was standing in the room when you guys first walked in or not, but he was here right before you walked in. So, but he said to the other four, we should start a real estate company. And the other four then were like, if anybody else was saying that, I would say you're crazy, but let's do it. And so this company was founded in 2009 when the market was basically exploding and tanking. And the meeting actually that was going on in here right before you guys came in is a bunch of the managers that were in here are California managers. So they've come into town for some training and they're actually going to be on the third floor doing calling and things. But one of the things that George was just talking to them right before you guys came in was that during that time is the reason for the start of this company was because in a difficult market is the time that people need what we at Everest have to offer more than any other time. Meaning when the market's going great, a lot of times agents will be like, I don't need training. I don't need this. I don't need your help because think of it as the tide comes in and, lifts up all the boats. Well, that's kind of what happens. But then when things start to turn is when people then panic and start being like, I need a company that's going to help and support and all those kinds of things. So that's what was going on in 2009. And when they decided to start this company, they said, we're going to start a company, but we're going to do it in a way that creates helping people to become their very best. So the mission of Century 21 Everest is to help agents become their very best. Well, part of that then goes back even further in time to, as a new agent, George was working in an office actually just up the street here. And during that time, he was working a lot of for sale by owner and expired listings. And he started to get appointments, but he would go out on these appointments and not get the listing. And so he wanted to figure out what is it that these top producing agents have or do that helps them to be successful that him as a new agent didn't have. And so he got a sticky note and started to write of like, what are the things that I've noticed? Now, it's not like he sat down and wrote these 6 things that I'm going to share with you today in one sitting, but over time, it kind of blossomed into these 6 principles that we're going to talk about. So before we get to that though, we first want to start with actually the footings to the foundation. So think of it as if you have this, if you're going to build a house, and they dig down to put in the foundation, but before they put in the foundation, they always start with the footings. So what I'm going to share with you now is think of this as being the footings to our foundation. Now, I failed art class, but any idea what that is? Yeah, good. Three-legged stool. So think of it this way. This is like, think of it as your life. And our life has three legs to it, and what those consist of would be our health, our relationships, and then money or business can go here. So either money or business is that leg. Well, so as we go through and we talk about these pieces, keep in mind that really, as an organization for Century 21 Everest, our objective is to say we want to help people become their very best. Well, as part of that, becoming your very best is there are three legs to this stool of you becoming your very best. Now, so let me kind of tell you from the standpoint of I have been training agents and mostly new agents for the last almost 17 years now that I've been doing this. And it's been interesting to see, and I didn't realize most of this until about 7 years ago, but we focused so much for the first 10 years of my training, we focused so much on this, the money business side of things, which we still do. A majority of the training is going to be about that. But it was interesting to me because I would watch agents that would come into real estate. They would start to learn and have some success in this area, but they neglected this area or this area, but specifically the relationships area that I noticed. And what I noticed would start to happen then is, as a result of that, I have watched a lot of people come into real estate, they start to do good, and then all of a sudden they're getting divorced. And I always was like, it's just kind of sad to me that what ends up happening is they start to do well here, then they end up getting divorced, that I would see, and then all of a sudden the money's not doing so well again either, and then their health becomes an issue as well. Well, the best example I can give for you of this is Tiger Woods. If you go back in time, he was, and maybe arguably still is, the best golfer. But when he was at the top of his game, he got messed up in one of these areas, which was which one?
Relationship.
Yeah. So he gets messed up in this, which then all of a sudden led to, he started having other health issues, and all of a sudden he wasn't the golfer that he used to be. So notice how these things all tie together. The other example I like to use is Larry Miller. Larry Miller, in his book that he wrote, that's called Driven, the name of the book is Driven. He talks about that he was so focused on this that his relationship with his kids, he let become an issue. And then what happened? He died at a very young age because of his health. So all three of these areas are interconnected. So part of why we always start this class of talking about this is, if you focus solely on making money, it's going to cost you in the other areas of your life. And we want to have a balanced life, therefore balance in health, relationships, and the money and the business side of things. So keep in mind as we go through and talk about these things that those are like the footings to this foundation that we're going to go through and talk about. All right, next. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through and talk about the 6 pieces of the foundation. Now, when it comes time for coaching of an agent, one of the things, again, that makes Everest unique to other companies is we always want to start with this one piece here, which is, so the first piece of the foundation is what we are going to put up here as purpose, vision, or sometimes we'll say it as dreams. Sometimes we'll even just say it as your why. Okay? So in order for an agent to take their business to the next level, you first have to start with understanding the purpose, the vision, your dreams, your why. Now, we have our top 2 agents in the company. So the top agent in Utah and the top agent in California both made about $3 million last year. So Brian Burnett, who's our agent in St. George, top agent, he did 2.8 million. And Tina Hare, who's in California, was about that same. So they're right, both just under $3 million in terms of income. Well, interestingly, both of them, though, when they joined the company, had been producing and were top producers. Brian Burnett actually was doing about $600,000 a year in income. Tina Hare was at about $900,000 a year. Well, the only thing that really has changed, both of them have been in the business for a while. So it's not like all of a sudden that they just figured something out and took off. What happened is as they joined the company and we started to work with them, the focus became on what's your purpose? What's your vision? What are your dreams? What's your why? Why are you doing this? And as George then was coaching them and getting them focused on the purpose, vision, and why, all of a sudden their business every year has just gone up and up and up. So for you guys, the place we want to start is understanding what's your purpose, what's your vision, what are your dreams, those type of things. Because here's what it boils down to is if you stop and think about it, your whole life you grew up with your parents telling you don't talk to strangers. Yet you came into real estate and what's the very first thing we tell you? Go talk to strangers. Go get on the phone and talk to strangers. So we have this dissonance that goes on of like, my whole life I've been told don't talk to strangers. Now I'm in a career that says go out and talk to strangers. That's the source of us having this frustration of doing it. So the way that we get over it is we have to understand like why. What is it you want the money for? Meaning, why do you want success? Why did you choose to come into real estate and stopping and figuring out what is the purpose or what is my why? Why do I want to do this? Let's say you go make $3 million in the next couple of years or whatever. What are you going to do with it? What is the purpose behind that? What are you wanting to accomplish by doing that? And if you figure that out, that's what then will drive you to go and to go get on the phone and make phone calls when you don't really want to go get on the phone and make phone calls, but because you have something that is bigger and greater than you. So for me, I struggled with this because I felt like early on of like, I don't really know that I know what my purpose is. And so if you are struggling with that, which by the way, we've had a bunch more join us on Zoom now. So you guys on Zoom, if you're have questions or stuff, you should be able to unmute. So please do so if you have questions. But so for me, I remember sitting down one day and thinking, how do I figure this out? Because here's what I would tell you is my experience is with real estate, but I would say just in life, most people don't understand this. They don't know what their purpose is, which is why we then end up floundering a bit. And so for me, I sat down one day and just said, okay, I want to figure this out. And so what I did, and so if you are struggling with it, when I say you, I'm talking to Zoom too, but is what you want to do is sit down with a piece of paper, get a journal or something, and write at the top of it, what is my purpose? Then what you do is you just start to write every single thought that comes into your head. And it doesn't matter what the thought is. If it has nothing to do with what is my purpose, you still write it down. So for me, I sat down and said, okay, what is my purpose? And then I just started to write a few things. And then I noticed myself thinking, I don't know that I really want to do this. And when I did, I wrote down, I don't know that I really want to do this. And then if I had the thought of this is stupid, I wrote down this is stupid. Like you literally write down every single thought that comes into your head as you say, what is my purpose? And just keep going back to what is my purpose? And then just write and just write and write and write. So I did that. So I sat down on a Saturday. I wrote down at the top of a piece of paper, what is my purpose? And I wrote, and for an hour, I just wrote, and I literally wrote every single thought that came into my head. Like if I thought I'm hungry, I wrote down I'm hungry. If I thought I'd rather be out doing something else, like literally every single thought that comes into your head, you write it down. After an hour of doing that, I was like, okay, I still don't have this figured out. So I then said, okay, I'm going to do it again. So the next Saturday, a week later, I set aside another hour. I sat down and I wrote again at the top of a piece of paper, what is my purpose? And then I wrote. And for an hour, I just wrote every single thought that came into my head over and over and over again. After that, no. So now I've spent 2 hours writing and I still felt like I have nothing. So at the end of that, I thought I'm going to go through and read what it has in there. So I went through and read for what I had written down over both sessions. I read through everything I had written down over that whole time. And what I started to notice was a common theme. I started noticing there was this theme of, and for me, what it was I want to help people become successful is what I noticed then the theme was. So for me, what I noticed, what I realized is my purpose is to help other people to achieve success, which is why I now do what I do. So, because here's the interesting thing with that is, so I made more money selling real estate than I do right now training to you guys. But I feel like this is more my purpose, or another way of saying it is I am more fulfilled when I spend the time doing this because it is what my purpose is. So here's the thing. Once you figure out what that purpose is and you can then start to work towards that, then you figure out how the money piece of it fits into this. So does that make sense? Any questions, thoughts, comments? Zoom, any questions, comments? If they do. Is anyone on Zoom?
We're here.
All right, thanks, Tracy. All right.
We're here.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Megan. All right, so so that's the first piece is if you were to sit down with me and say, Russ, I want you to coach me, the first thing I'm going to say to you is, okay, we got to first figure out what's your purpose. What is your vision? Like, what is it you're wanting to accomplish? So here's the other thing I will tell you that I have found over the years with this is typically, and I'm not saying this is 100% true, but I would say majority of the time, this purpose is going to involve other people. Meaning, like if you sat down and just said, look, well, I just want to make all this money because I want to go on all these fabulous trips. What I've found, that doesn't tend to be enough motivation to get people to do it. And like I say, there's going to be exceptions to that. But as a general rule, it's going to usually involve helping other people is what it's going to be. Your purpose typically ends up being like, I want to have the money so that therefore I could go start a school or like whatever it is, something that way is typically what that is. So that's the first thing that George figured out, which is what led us to this, is all top producing agents, all of the top agents understand this. If you were to talk to them and say, why are you doing this? And what do you want to have the money for? They can all tell you, my objective is down the road, I want to be able to blah. And it's usually going to involve other people. So Dave Parker, who runs our top team here in Utah and actually was the #1 team for the whole country this past year. If you sat down with him, his objective, his purpose is he wants to help other people to become millionaires is really, and I don't know that he would word it that way, but that's kind of that's how I perceive how he would do it. But so that's where we got to figure out the very first thing in order for you to achieve what you want to in life and real estate is it all starts with figuring out what's my purpose. Because once we know that, we now have the drive that's going to take us to go and accomplish the next pieces. All right, number 2. Second thing, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on this one today because Thursday is going to be all about this, number 2. So Thursday, we're going to spend the whole time on this, but goals, plan, and schedule. So the second piece that George found. So first thing is all top producing agents, they understand their purpose, their vision, their dreams, their why. Second thing is they all have goals. They have goals that they've written down. They've created a business plan. And they have a schedule that they follow. So, like I said, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time today on this because we're going to spend pretty much all of Thursday talking about just this goals plan and schedule piece. So just know that guess how I would say it is, think of it this way: is you have to have a goal that you're working towards, And then with that being said, there's got to be a business plan in place of like, so how are you going to achieve the goals that you have set? And then what is the schedule going to look like to get you there? So we'll talk more about that on Thursday. And so Thursday is going to be all about helping you get started on the business plan. And in fact, actually, let me even do it this way. So let me say it this and about Thursday. One of the things that could be helpful, I guess, for Thursday would be this. If you can before Thursday, figure out how much money do you need on like a monthly basis? So just kind of the month, what's the monthly outflow of money that you need to pay your bills, to pay for food, gas, just all that kind of stuff. What does that look like that you have to spend? And then also decide, I'm trying to think how much I'm worried to go in too much into this because then I'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll be taken away from what we're going to do on Thursday. So I'll just say it this way, and then we'll go deeper on Thursday. But what other things do you want to buy? So just if you could come on Thursday with knowing, and you're not going to have to share this with anybody, but just yourself, but how much money on a monthly basis do you need? What are the things that you want to buy and maybe trips that you want to go on, something like that. And then from there, we'll get you going on to the business plan. So, okay. All right. So like I said, we'll spend a bunch more time on that Thursday, so I'm going to skip it now. All right, next then. The next thing on this that George found is that top producing agents first have their purpose, vision, or the why. They then set goals, have a plan and a schedule, and then the next one is mindset. What he noticed is that they have a strong mindset. And so this now you'll start to understand why we do a lot of what we do. So every morning, 7 a.m., you should be getting a text message that has a 3 to 5 minute message that is something geared around just positive, kind of get you going kind of a thing. The idea behind that is this business, real estate, when we're on the phone prospecting, we're making those phone calls, it can be very depressing. There's a lot of rejection, all of those things. So as a result, we want to do things as a company to help strengthen your mindset. So you'll notice that every day we send out this message, Monday through Friday, you're going to get a text message with this short message that's designed around, okay, positive, help you be inspired, get you ready. So the next piece of this that you'll notice with us is that's why we do every morning, 8 a.m. We've got morning ascent going on that we are doing. It's again around trying to help build the mindset, strengthen it, because there's so much negativity in this business that we want to have some things to put in place to offset it. So next question on this for you in terms of mindset. So part of what we want to keep an eye on, let me see, I think we got a question here in the chat box. Megan asking, how do I get on the list for those? So, okay, so yeah, Megan, what you should be able to do, it's possible that you may be unsubscribed for them because it should be something that happens automatically. So if you will go on your phone and send a text to, if you go to send a text to 95997 and then put in the text message start, it should turn that on for you. If that doesn't work, then let me know. Let's see, Aiden.
Thank you. That's set up now. Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah, you need to do it again. Let me tell you what it is one more time. 95997. Start. Which, by the way, that is the way that we communicate. So a lot of times agents will say, how come I never know anything that's going on in the office? And it's because they've unsubscribed to that. So anyway. So Aiden, you're on the role play link. The role play link doesn't go out as a text. I think Rick just emails that, Aiden. So you'll want to just ask Rick for that. All right.
All right.
Yeah, that one, we probably ought to talk about doing it as a text message, actually, though. Okay, so mindset, the next piece on this. So in terms of mindset, the key thing you want to look at is so we do the morning ascent, we do our summits. The whole idea of summit that we do once a month is designed around helping with that mindset as well. So part of what we want you to look at in terms of your mindset is be looking at, what are you reading? So what things are you reading? And it is a sad, sad thing that most people, after they get out of high school, never read a book again. The majority of people never read after they get out of high school. So part of what, excuse me, part of what we want to do is we want to make sure you're reading. So you'll notice here written on the board, right now we do a book club every Thursday. So every Thursday, 8 a.m. in this room right here is book club. So the book we're doing right now is Dare to Lead. So pretty much what we try to do is once a month, go through and do a book club where we're going to talk about what we're learning from within the book. So reading. So what are you reading? What are you listening to? So on this, I love, and I think it was Zig Ziglar that said this, is that your car should be a mini university. Meaning that when you get in the car, what are you listening to that is helping to strengthen your mindset? And Zig Ziglar said, you should treat your car as if it was a mini university, meaning getting things that you're going to listen to while you are driving around in the car that is going to help to strengthen that mindset. So one of the 5 people that I mentioned that was sitting around the table that I said you'll probably never meet her, but she's the CFO. I think this might be a little excessive, but she last year said she listened to over 200 books because which to me, I'm like, that's a little excessive because that's like almost one a day kind of a thing. But because she's the CFO, she's not having a ton of interaction with people. So she sits at her desk and has basically a book playing all day long while she works. But so what are you listening to? Are you listening to things that are going to help strengthen that mindset? All right, next is, what are you watching? Same concept here is, are you using the television as a resource to help you learn and to grow and to become more or not? And then the next one is associate. Who are you associating with? It has been said, and I've heard it so many different times from so many different people. I don't know who the truth person who said it, but that you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with, meaning your income is the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So if you want to change your income, according to that, what you change is who you're going to hang out with. So go and hang out. So Tracy, start hanging out with Brian Burnett more often down there if you want to make more money, right? So welcome. What?
That's our team.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. All right, so who are you associating with? So another one that I heard from was, I heard the story about a guy that he noticed there was one day in the week that he always was kind of depressed. And so he went back and took his journal and grabbed his journal and went through and was reading, trying to figure out, why is it on Wednesdays that I'm always so depressed? Well, what he noticed is he went and read through his journal that every Wednesday he would go to lunch with a certain group of people at his office. And he realized those people were just so negative that he was like, I got to quit associating with them. So part of what I guess I'm saying is, if you will take a look at the people that you are associating with, go through each of those main people that you spend time with. So you don't have to do this with people that you hardly spend any time with, but look at the people that you spend time with and start to notice, is that person somebody who builds you up, strengthens your mindset? Are they somebody who's neutral, or are they somebody who drags it down? Meaning, I have noticed that there are some people, and I won't use any names because in case somebody knows any of them, but I've noticed there are some people, in fact, there is one person that you all probably will know, so I won't say, but that I started to notice periodically, if that person would go to lunch with me, that I would end up sitting at lunch, I would pull out my phone and I would start getting onto social media or whatever. Like I started, and one particular day, the person said to me, how come you're like always on your phone when we're at lunch? And that's when it kind of clicked for me. Well, the reason is because they were so negative in what they were talking about that that was my escape to be like, I didn't want to be rude and like be like, let's leave or whatever, but I would get on my phone as a way to just totally take away from listening to them. So part of what you want to do is what I'm saying with this is look at the people who are going to build you up and help you be stronger. Spend more time with those people. The people who are dragging you down, you got to figure out, how do I spend less time with them? Because what they're doing is, when I'm around them, it brings me down. It ruins my thinking, those type of things. So that's part of it. Then the last one for mindset, participate. So what I mean by this in terms of participate is, to some extent, what we already talked about, the morning message. Like I said, it is not uncommon that people get frustrated with the number of text messages that they get from the office of, here's this class, and here's, don't forget summit, and don't forget this, and then here's the daily message, and come to this and do that. That sometimes people will unsubscribe from those things. And it's interesting as well, the same thing with our morning meetings. I will see people that come to role play, or they're coming to Morning Ascent, and they get their business up and running, and then they go, okay, now I don't need that anymore. And they go away from it. And then all of a sudden, they also then stop making as much money as they were making. And then they come back to Morning Ascent. They start attending and coming to the classes and all that. Their business starts to get going again, and then they quit coming again. And it's like, there's a pattern here, like notice. So part of what I would say is continue to participate. So we do summits every month. And I'm not saying you need to be to Morning Ascent every single day. Like, I'm not saying that. But I am saying, like, on the days I do it, you should be there. No, I'm just kidding. But you should at least say, okay, I'm gonna attend Morning Ascent 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 4 days a week, like whatever it is. Have kind of a number that you just say, I'm gonna go every, once a week, whatever it is. But I'm gonna attend at least X amount of time. Same thing with our summits. Like, that should be one that's like, okay, we do it 10 times a year. We don't do it in July, and we usually don't do it in December. So, but those are the only 2 months we don't plan to be there. As long as you will do that, that's these things, all 5 of these things is going to help strengthen your mindset so that you're stronger and you'll do more and be better. All right. Any thoughts or comments on that? All right. Quiet group today. Even you guys on Zoom. All right. Number 4 then. So now, just a reminder again, I don't know why I circled 4 here. So number 4, keeping in mind again, what we're talking about is what George found is the top producer. So let me even actually say this a different way. If you ever in your real estate career feel like, okay, I'm struggling somewhere, either getting my business going or going to the next level, the first thing you should always do is go back to this and go, okay, do I have my purpose, my why? Do I understand my why? Okay, yes. Do I have goals, plan, and a schedule? Yes. Okay, then how's my mindset? And if you're off on the mindset, then you go to this. Well, what am I reading? What am I listening to? What am I watching? Who am I associating with? Am I participating? Okay, so just keep in mind, these are the things that top producers have in place. So number 4 is discipline / accountability. All right, discipline and accountability. So the next thing that George noticed is that top producing people have 1 of 2 things. They're either highly disciplined or they get people to hold them accountable. So what's the difference between, if you guys had to describe, what's the difference between discipline and accountability?
So you're holding yourself accountable with the discipline.
Good, yeah.
But you need an outside source for accountability.
Good. That's how I like to think of it. Is discipline is internal, accountability is external. And so here's how I would say to think about it. If you have the discipline to hold yourself to following the schedule that you create, which again, we'll talk about that on Thursday. But if you have the discipline to follow your schedule, awesome. That's great. Do it. But if you don't, then you need to get people to hold you accountable. And I always like to say that accountability is a privilege, meaning that sometimes people think about, well, I don't want to be held accountable because they feel like it's a negative thing. But I will tell you, accountability is a privilege. And the proof in that is the top producing agents, as I said, they're highly disciplined and they just do it on their own, or more often than not, they're not highly disciplined. Therefore, they put accountability in place. And the proof that this is a privilege is most of those top producing agents are paying somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 a month to pay people to hold them accountable. So that's how you know it's a privilege, is because they actually pay people to do it for them. So if you're disciplined enough to follow your schedule and do the things that you know you need to do, awesome, do it. But if you're not, get some people to hold you accountable. So let me give you two quick stories on that. First one is this piece of it for me happened kind of just by chance, I guess I would say. And that was the accountability side of things. Is when I first started in real estate, I was sitting in a class similar to this, and somewhere along the way, there was another lady sitting in the class, and she had mentioned the office that she was in. And so she and I were from the same office. We were the only two agents in this training that were from the same office. And I just went over and started talking to her, and I said, hey, I'm new, and I just, got my license, and I'm in the same office as you. And so I asked her, how long have you been selling real estate? She said, I actually just got my license too. So I'm brand new. She and I decided we should work together. And not, when I say work together, it wasn't like sharing any leads or anything like that, but it was kind of like, let's show up to the office at the same time and kind of help each other out in getting the business going. And so Shirley and I had decided, let's meet at the office every day at 9 a.m. and we will do some role play. So from 9 o'clock till about 9:45, she and I would go into this office and we would do role play. Well, then at 9:45, we would go back to our desk, get whatever we needed to, and then she and I would jump in a car and we would drive out to Kearns. There was a neighborhood that we liked to door knock. We would drive out to Kearns and we would get out of our cars and we would go knock on these doors. And the reason we liked that neighborhood is every one of the houses in there was built in 1954 or 1955. They were all about the exact same square footage. They just had different floor plans. And we loved them because if you got a listing, like, you knew what to price it at because they were all the same pretty much. You just knew they were all going to sell. And they were so cheap that they would sell so fast. So she and I would jump in the car, we would go out there, we would knock on doors from about 10 o'clock until we would get 25 contacts. We would go back, go to lunch, then we would meet back at the office, and at about 2 o'clock, we'd get on the phone and make phone calls until we got 25 more contacts. Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but what was happening is we had set up for each other this accountability piece, because what would happen is if ever there was a day I would get to the office and I would be like, oh, I'm too busy today. I've got a listing appointment and I need to get my presentation together. I got to do my CMA, blah, blah, blah. Shirley would go, no, you're not. You're going to go out and knock on doors with me because that's what we said we were going to do. And I would usually reluctantly get in the car and I would go out and knock on doors with her. Well, then a few days later, she would say to me, I don't have time to go. And I would go, hold on. You forced me on Monday to go, so you're going. And we would help each other stay accountable. And we would just use that as a way to remind each other, hey, even if this deal falls apart, if you are prospecting, there'll be another one in place. So we would use each other for accountability to help each other out. So one of the things that I would say for you guys is make sure that if you're disciplined enough to get yourself to get on the phone and prospect or go out and knock on doors, great. do it. You don't need an accountability partner. But if you don't, if you find yourself being able to give in to yourself of like, well, I don't really feel like it, and so I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it this afternoon. If you find yourself doing that, get an accountability partner that you can say, all right, let's hold each other accountable. Okay. And so the second piece of this that I will tell you. So for me, as I started to get older and I realized, okay, I have to exercise every day. I can't just eat everything I want and stay skinny. I got to exercise. Well, I didn't have the discipline to do it. So I initially went out and found somebody to, hey, let's meet at the gym every single day. And if I don't show up, get on the phone and call me or whatever. And we would do the same thing. Well, what I've noticed though is over time, I've gotten into the habit of it enough to now I have the discipline. I actually don't want to exercise with anybody anymore. So I don't have any accountability because I build up the discipline to do it. So part of, I guess what I'm saying is early on, if you need the accountability, find somebody and just say, okay, let's hold each other accountable to do it. Now, you got to make sure you get somebody like Shirley was for me, meaning somebody that's not going to slide with you. Because I also have had accountability partners that I'm like, oh, I don't really want to prospect. And they go, yeah, I don't want to either. Let's not. Like, that's not what you want in an accountability partner. You need somebody like Shirley was for me to be like, no, you're not going to go do that. You're going to get on the phone or you're going to go out and knock on the doors. And I'd be like, but I can't. This deal's falling apart. And she'd be like, it doesn't matter. You're going to go find a new one. Just come on, let's go. Like she was better at that than I was. I would have been easier to be like, yeah, it's all right. Let's not go. But find somebody who's going to say no. And here's the best way to do it. If you can have them know what your purpose is, your vision, your why, your dreams, then they can use that to say, okay, I thought you wanted to, whatever. And yeah, I do want to. Okay, well, the only way that's going to happen is if you get out and go do your prospecting. So find somebody that does that. So top producers either have the discipline to make themselves do it. So again, back to Brian Burnett down in St. George. That guy is, in fact, Tracy, are you still on? Yes. Tracy, when you're at the office, what is Brian Burnett doing? Maybe she's not there. You're muted if you are trying to talk. And if you don't unmute, then I know you're not really there. All right. Well, anyway, here's what I'll tell you. You can count on, he has built into his schedule when he's going to be prospecting. And when you go to the office, when he's supposed to be prospecting, he's prospecting. Like you can count on it. He is so consistent. So that's the idea of this is get your schedule put together, either be disciplined enough to do it or get somebody to hold you accountable to sticking to your schedule. So one of the things, so the daily message that we talked about, I'm responsible to put that together. And so I am constantly having to get from John and George and Jeremy, give me a message. I need messages. And after a while, so even actually yesterday, I said to John Sy, it's been a while since you've gotten me any messages. I need some messages from you. And he said, I will get you 2 by midnight last night, or I'll pay you $100. So at 11:59, he sent me a text last night that said, I haven't forgotten. I just ran out of time. And then he sent me a message this morning. So he owes me $100. First thing I saw him this morning, he's like, I know I owe you $100. So that's what we want is now here's the other problem though. So to some extent, because I will do that with George and John from time to time, they'll say, I'll give you $100 every day that I don't get you a message. The problem is they don't mind giving me the $100. So you got to put this, if you're going to do accountability. In fact, so as we're saying this, I think I'm going to next time he says that, because I guarantee you, if I'd have said, give me $5,000 if you don't give me a message, he would have given me 2 messages before midnight last night, guaranteed. So make sure it hurts, I guess, is the point. If you're going to do accountability, you got to do it as something that's going to hurt to do it. So like one agent I heard about said on one of the accountabilities they said was, if I don't do this, I will get in a Speedo and wash your car out in the parking lot where everybody can, like, you got to make it hurt kind of a thing. Okay. So that's the idea of this. Next is discipline and accountability. All right. Number 5 is skill set. Okay, so there are 12 skills. So we're going to go through and talk about these 12 skills now for a few minutes. But there are 12 skills that we as a company want you to master. Okay, so we're going to go through and talk about those 12 skills here in just a second. But again, coming back to and where these 12 skills came from is tied to this same concept of what is it that top producing agents do that makes them the top producers. Now, I will tell you a lot of times for the top producers, most of this stuff is, let me rephrase that. I said a lot of the top producers. There are some top producers that these things it intuitively happens. It's not like they sat down and planned some of this, but if they really will do that is when they're going to take it to the next level. Well, so what George did is he said, okay, so now what are the skills that these top producing agents have? And so that's what we're going to do next. We're going to go through and talk about these 12 skills. All right. So the first one is, oops, change colors here. Lead generation. And we'll talk a little bit about this on Thursday in terms of the business plan. But here's what I would say in terms of lead generation. The struggle that I see agents all the time with is this when it comes to lead generation, is they're too much of a all over the place. Meaning, you'll go to a training and you'll hear somebody get up and they'll start to talk about working for sale by owners. And you'll hear somebody say, oh man, I've been killing it with for sale by owners. And then what happens is agents go, oh, well, I need to go out and work for sale by owners then. And so they'll leave that training and go, okay, I'm going to go work for sale by owners. The next training they go to, somebody shows up and says, well, I have been killing it with expired listings, and here's how I go work expireds. And the agent goes, oh, well, maybe that's what I should do then. So they abandon the for sale by owners. They now start working these expired listings. And they go start working expired listings. And then somebody else comes in and goes, oh, I found this great website. You can generate these internet leads. And so look at all this business I'm doing from these internet leads. And the agent goes, oh, well, maybe, yeah, these expireds isn't working the way I thought it would. So maybe I'll go do the internet leads. I'm going to go spend a whole bunch of money to get internet leads. So they go do that. And then another agent comes in and goes, you know what I've been doing? I just go out and knock on doors. And I'm finding all these people that want to sell their house just from knocking on doors. And then the agent goes, yeah, I am spending too much money on my internet leads. So I'm just going to go over and knock on doors now. And then they go knock on doors. And then they go to a training and somebody says, I'm killing it with open houses. So now they go to, so do you see the problem? So when it comes to lead generation, here's what you want to do. Have 2 or 3 sources that you're going to work. So you want 2 or 3 sources that you're going to work. Now, so next week, which I'll remind you of this again on Thursday. Next week is supposed to be 2 days of lead generation, but, and you guys are not going to like me for what I'm about to say, but I'm going to Hawaii next week. So, and I tried to get somebody to fill in for me on Tuesday, and I could not find anybody. So we're going to do 1 day of lead generation. So no class next Tuesday. So a week from today, no class. Thursday, though, Jason Carlson's going to come in and teach the lead generation. So, but part of that, he's going to talk about the different ways you can generate leads. What you want to be doing, though, is identify 2 or 3 ways that you're going to generate leads. So what I mean by that is at least one of them should be sphere of influence. So one of them has got to be working your sphere of influence, and then choose 1 or 2 others. And I don't care what it is. And in fact, Jason will probably show you next Thursday a slide from the NAR that shows the majority of the business comes out of friends, neighbors, and relatives, or referrals from friends, neighbors, and relatives. And then after that, it drops off so dramatically, it almost doesn't matter what you do, which is where I'm coming from. Just pick 2 or 3, 1 being SOI, so pick 1 or 2 others that you're going to focus on. And if you decide I'm going to go do for sale by owners, go do for sale by owners and stick to it. Don't get caught up when somebody else goes, oh, I'm doing open houses and I'm killing it. If you decided open houses is going to be one of your ways, keep doing it. Don't get distracted from it. So decide 2 or 3 ways you're going to prospect, and then just stick to those 2 or 3. If you will stick to it, you can make it work. It doesn't matter if it's open house, for sale by owner, expireds, internet, all of them work. What you just have to do is become the expert in those 2 or 3. That's what you want to do. All right. So next is setting appointments. Okay, so the next skill of these 12 skills is setting appointments. So part of what I would say for you guys is rank yourself on some of these. How good are you at these on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being horrible, 10 being great. How good are you at setting appointments? And part of why I want you to do this is because on Thursday, when we get into the business plan, you're going to have part of the business plan is what are the skills that I need to work on and improve. And so this is going to help you to know which skills to work on and get better at. But setting appointments is, in my opinion, and so yeah, so let me say it this way. In the 17 plus years that I have now spent training agents to help them be successful, I will tell you the most important thing, the first thing that you've got to get good at is setting appointments. It doesn't matter what source you use. The process of setting appointments is the same, which Jason will talk about that next week in the lead generation class. But setting appointments is the most important thing. Here's what I will tell you. Anytime I can get an agent good at setting appointments, they'll be fine in this business. If you struggle at setting appointments, you're going to struggle in this business. So of all the skills we're going to talk about, focus most on this one. In fact, one of the managers that's here from California, I was asking her, because the managers are here, they're down on the 3rd floor making recruiting calls for today and tomorrow. And I was asking this one manager that's from California, I said, how's it going? How much do you enjoy coming and doing these calls and stuff? And she said, because of what you taught me on setting appointments, she's like, I don't mind doing recruiting calls because I know the process of how to do it. Well, that's what I would say for you guys is of everything that you're going to learn, this skill needs to be top of the list of I got to get good at setting an appointment. If you're good at that, you'll make plenty of money in this business. If you're not good, you're going to struggle with it. So make sure you get good at that. All right. And like I said, Thursday we'll do work on that. All right. So setting appointments, the next skill is going to be, and I'm not necessarily doing these in an order per se, but somewhat we'll do it in an order. I mostly do it as they come to my mind, but I try to get them to come to my mind in order. But lead follow-up. So the next skill, how good are you at lead follow-up? So again, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at lead follow-up? Here's the other thing I'll tell you. So I just went on this rant for a minute here about setting appointments, right? You got to get good at setting appointments. Well, part of the process with this of getting good is lead follow-up as well. Because here's the thing. You are not going to get an appointment with every phone call you make. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to set an appointment every time you get on the phone and make a call, but you are going to come across people who want to do something real estate related. They're just not ready yet. So you've got to get good at lead follow-up. Said another way, probably 75 to 80% of the business you're going to do will come as a result of lead follow-up. So I just spent all this time saying, okay, if you're not good at setting appointments, you're going to struggle in this business. Let me add to that lead follow-up is probably the second thing to that. So again, I've watched agents that can get really good at setting appointments, but they're not good at lead follow-up, and they'll do business. Like I said, you can make money if you're good at setting appointments, and they did. And I always think of one agent in particular, which he's not with our company anymore, although he told me he does jump on and watch the training videos a lot. So if he's watching, he'll text me later on. But he's horrible at lead follow-up though. He would so good at getting on and setting appointments and getting people that had said, yeah, we're going to do something, but then he would never follow up with them. And so as a result, he struggled a bit. You got to get good at setting appointments, and if you don't get the appointment, capturing them as a lead and then following up with them, staying in touch. So make sure you have a good system for that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. All right, so lead follow-up was the next one. All right, next. Let's do presenting. Next skill is presenting. How good are your presentation skills? So again, we're going to work on all of these things. Well, yeah, all 12 of these we'll work on, but specifically the next few weeks are going to be about setting appointments, lead follow-up, and presenting, okay? So just, you have got to get good at your presentation skills as well, okay? So rate yourself, again, scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at presenting, okay? All right, next. Let's do pricing. How good are you at pricing properties, doing CMAs? So what you want to do is get good at that. So here's what I recommend to do in terms of getting good at pricing. I think as a new agent, that knowing what I know today, if I were a new agent, I would say you need to be out viewing property at least once a week, even if it's just one house. Find a house that's vacant, go out and look at it, come back to the office, put together a CMA of what you think that house is worth. And you don't have to do anything with it beyond that, but just go look at a house. And like I said, find a vacant one, go walk through it, come back to the office, put together a CMA of here's what I think the house should sell for. Now, in our current market, you might be doing it of saying it's listed at this, how high above list price do you think it's going to sell for based on what the other comparables have done? Or you're maybe looking at it saying it's overpriced and it's probably going to sell for less. But part of what you want to do is be doing that weekly of putting together a CMA on a property every week so that you will get to the point where you're like, hey, I'm actually getting good at this, which is going to give you the confidence when you go out on a listing presentation to be able to say to them, here's what the price of your home should be, okay? All right, next. This one doesn't apply too much in our current market. And we'll talk about this in the listing presentation class, but price reductions. So the next skill is price reductions. How good are you at being able to get a price reduction on a property that you list? Like I said, in today's market, not too crucial, but as an overall general throughout your real estate career, you're going to have to get good at being able to get price reductions. Part of the getting a price reduction starts at the listing presentation. And so I'll show you what that looks like when we go through and do the listing presentation. All right. Next, let's do negotiate or negotiating. Okay. So the next skill is negotiating or negotiate. How good are you at that? Now, if you have not read the book, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss is the author of that book. You need to read it. He is awesome for this in terms of negotiating. And in fact, actually, so last week, I went down to, took my wife, we went to Disneyland for her birthday. And when we got to the hotel, I actually used something that I learned from Chris Voss that you can do to get upgrades at hotels. So you start out by, and all of this stuff is, he teaches in terms of negotiating in this book, Never Split the Difference. But you start out, so you try this the next time you go to a hotel. When you get there, as you're checking in, you say to the hotel worker, the person who's helping you at the desk there, I'm about to make your job very difficult. Now, what's going to go through their mind when you just said, I'm about to make your job very difficult? Yeah. Yeah, they're like, oh, really? Okay. So, and then here's the key though. Don't say anything until they do. So you just say, I'm about to make your job very difficult. And then you don't say anything until they say something. And typically they're going to go, okay, or all right, or you just wait for them to say something. Part of what you're doing is what you're trying to create in their mindset is like, this is going to be horrible. And it's not really going to be horrible, but you want them to think it's going to be horrible. Because then as soon as they say something, then you follow it up with, because what they'll say is, okay. And then you say, I'm about to be one of those spoiled hotel guests that asks for something they don't deserve. And then you just be quiet again. And you don't say anything until they say something. So then they'll go, all right. And this guy last week said, let me have it. And I said, how much trouble would you get in if you upgraded us to a 2-bedroom suite? And he goes, Actually, I threw in because we went to Disneyland for my wife's birthday. So I said, she's about to turn 50 in 2 days, and we're going to be here staying on your property. How much trouble would you get in if you upgraded us to a 2-bedroom suite so that we could have a really nice place? Because we had my 13-year-old with us as well. I said, so we had a really nice place to celebrate her birthday. And he goes, we probably should do something like that, shouldn't we? So but you start it, and these are all just negotiating skills. Part of it is you want to start by making it sound worse than it's going to be, so that then when you ask for what you want, they're like, oh, well, that's no big deal. So anyway, negotiating. How good are you at it? If you haven't read the book, Never Split the Difference, get it. Chris Voss is the author. It's awesome. Okay. Next is, let's see, what should we do next? What number are we on? Is that 1, 2, 3, 7, 5, 6, 7? Oh, I'm in trouble if I'm already starting to have a hard time remembering. I may have to go to my cheat sheet here, but we'll see. All right, next one is, we'll go with working with buyers. Next skill is working with buyers. That is a skill set. See, what you will find is most agents in this business start out with working mostly with buyers. But as you progress in the business, you'll typically do less and less buyers and more sellers. Well, part of that is because agents don't typically, and again, there's always exceptions to this, but typically agents don't like working with buyers as a general rule. And it's because they don't know how to do it. So if you will learn, and I'm going to teach you in the needs analysis class how to work with buyers, if you'll do that process that I will teach you with there, it cannot be bad. In fact, I had one guy that I trained that he hated listings. He was like, I don't ever want anything to do with a listing. When I have a buyer that is a good, solid buyer, so a lot of times I'll say working with highly qualified buyers, but when you have a good, solid buyer that you're working with, he would say, I'm going to get a sale. Versus you list a house, and if it's not selling, they complain and blah, anyway. If you know how to work with a buyer, it's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be this horrible, miserable thing. But if you don't, it can be. All right. So how good are you at working with buyers? All right. Next, let's do customer service. Another great book to read if you haven't read it is Raving Fans. Can't remember who the author is. Oh, shoot. I know the guy's name, but I can't think of it. Oh, anybody read that could throw out the author? Raving Fans. Anybody on Zoom? Can't think of it. Ken Blanchard, thank you. Yep, Ken Blanchard's the author. All right. That's another great book in terms of customer service. The other thing that I'll tell you is we have an agent here who runs a team. His name's Justin Udy. That the thing that I've noticed with Justin Udy is he constantly talks about world-class customer service. When he goes on a listing presentation, it's all about world-class customer service. I want to give world-class customer service. Our goal is to give world-class customer service. So how good are you at your customer service? This skill is another important one because here's what I've noticed. In my years of doing this, agents, almost every transaction has some type of a hiccup along the way. Pretty much every single transaction is going to have something that happens to where you as the agent feel like the client's mad at you, to think it's your fault, that the lender didn't come through, the appraiser didn't work out, the title company did, like whatever it is, you're going to feel like it's your fault. Therefore, agents don't then stay in touch and follow up with the people. So for me, really work on your customer service, and at closing, ask the people, well, two things actually. When you're on a listing presentation, part of what you want to tell the client is, my goal on this listing presentation or this meeting with you is I want to help you through this process in such a way that you have such a good experience that you will refer me to your friends and neighbors. And then even ask them, if I do that good of a job, will you be willing to do that? And they'll say yes. Then at closing, part of what you want to say is there anything that I didn't do or that I should have done that would stop you from referring to your friends and neighbors and relatives. And part of what you're going to find out when you do that is you think they're mad at you for something, but at closing, if you said that to them, more times than not, 9 out of 10 times, maybe 99 out of 100, they're going to say, no, you've done a great job. I mean, we did have that one little hiccup along the way, but that wasn't your fault and you did a great job. Part of why you want to do that with them is, one, you're solidifying that they're going to refer people to you. Two, it allows you to then feel like, okay, I did a good enough job with my customer service that I will stay in touch with the people. Most agents don't stay in touch with their people, and therefore they don't get referrals. Okay, so customer service. How good are you at customer service? All right, next. Closing. So how good are you at closing? Now, when I say that, that means both for the appointment, which, so back to this, where I said the skill of setting appointments, if you can learn that and get good at it, you're going to make money. The problem that most people have on setting appointments is they don't close. The biggest struggle that I see with working with agents is they get on the phone, and when there's any resistance, they'll hang up rather than close for the appointment. So how good are you at closing for the appointment? Can you do it 2 or 3 times on a phone call? Could you do it 5 times? I know one agent that would keep quarters on their desk, and every time they would ask a closing question, they would slide it over so that while they were on the call, they could keep track of how many times did I close on that phone call. Because you are typically going to have to close between 3 and 5 times to get an appointment. You're going to have to ask for the appointment 3 to 5 times before you get it. So number one, most agents don't even ask, is the challenge that they have if they're not getting appointments. Like, again, back to this. If I were to come and listen to you prospect, if you said, come help me set more appointments, the first thing I'm going to be paying attention for is, are you closing? When you're on the phone, are you asking for an appointment? More times than not, agents are not even asking once. But in order to get the appointment, you're going to have to ask 3 to 5 times. So how good are you at that? And again, we'll talk about this. Jason will talk about it in the lead generation class of the closing piece. And in fact, he and I this morning met, and I said, really focus on connect, create value, close. So he's going to really focus on those pieces with you. So, all right. So that would be the question. How good are you at that? All right. What number are we on? While I try to think of some more. So I got 2 more. What am I forgetting? Let's see. I don't know. I'm going to have to go to the cheat sheet over here. Usually, the funny thing is it's usually closing that I forget to put up there. Oh, there we go. Pre-qualification. So, or pre-qualifying. So you could say it as pre-qualification, or you can say it as pre-qualifying. Is how good are you at pre-qualifying the people? So here's the thing. Let me say this on terms of pre-qualification. When we're on the phone, to keep in mind this, your objective in prospecting is to set an appointment. Okay. My objective when I get on the phone is to set an appointment. Once I have set the appointment, then I'm going to pre-qualify. Some agents try to pre-qualify before they even set the appointment. But I'm telling you, the magic in this is set the appointment. Then you can ask the pre-qualification questions. The pre-qualification, well, let me ask you guys this way. I haven't gotten you guys very involved. What would be the purpose, and you guys on Zoom can answer too. What is the purpose of pre-qualifying? Why would we want to pre-qualify?
To know if they can buy or not.
Know what price range they're looking at.
Show them what they can buy realistically.
Okay, good. You guys are on the right track. The main thing we're looking for is motivation. The main thing you're looking for when we are asking pre-qualification questions is, are they motivated? Is there motivation? So ultimately what we're trying to figure out is, if it's a seller, why are they wanting to sell? Why do they need to sell their home? Oh, which I don't know why this just popped into my head, but you guys on Zoom, make sure you throw your name in the chat box so that I can print that off and have a record of you being in the class. But the main purpose of us pre-qualifying is we're wanting to find the motivation. So if I'm asking a seller, why did you decide to sell your home? What I'm looking for is what's the motivation behind it? If it's we have to move because whatever, fill in the blank, job transfer, divorce, whatever it is. If they have to move, that's one you want. If they say, oh, well, if we could find the perfect house, we would do it. We would list our house. That's not the motivation that we're looking for. So same thing with a buyer. Why are they buying? Well, my lease is up and we're tired of renting, whatever it is. But you're looking for motivation, because what we want to find out is motivation. Now, with that being said, let me say this. Since most of you, I believe, are newer agents, regardless of what the outcome of the pre-qualifying is, of asking them why they're decided to sell and, can they afford it and all that kind of stuff, still go on the appointment, because I want you to have the experience of presenting. But the more you do that and go on those, the more over time you'll figure out when you shouldn't have gone. So a part of it is I want you to have the experience of pre-qualifying, then going out and finding out that it was a little bit of a waste of your time. Although it's not a waste of your time, especially when you're new, because it's going to help you on working on these skills. So kind of realize, like, regardless, even if you felt like, oh, I don't think there's a lot of motivation, I still would say go on the appointment to practice your presentation skills. Over time, though, you'll start to figure out, I got too much business. I'm not going on that type of an appointment again. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask the questions up front so that I know not to do that. Does that make sense? All right. Last skill is objections. Handling objections. How good are you at handling objections? Now, here's the good news. There are only so many objections and they don't change. Like in my over 25 years now of doing this, the objections have not changed. Like the wording or how they disguise the objection maybe has changed, meaning like when I first started, people weren't saying, well, I could just put it on Zillow. Like Zillow didn't exist when I first started, but they still would say, well, I can just go put it in a magazine, or I can, it's the same objection. They just call it something different. The objections don't change. They stay the same. So get good at handling the objections. If you can do that, then you'll know how to deal with it. So things like, I want you to reduce your commission. If you know how to handle that, you can handle the objection, and it comes in many different forms, but it's the same objection. I have a friend in the business. That objection's always been around. It's the holidays, or it's, we're going to wait till school starts. We're going to wait till school's over. Like, the objections don't change. So just know, I got to come up with some answers. The best way for you guys to do that, come and participate in role play. Every morning, 7 o'clock, you can get on Zoom and participate on Zoom if you don't want to get up and be here at 7. But you can just say, I want to work on some objections today. And Ruby will work with you on handling objections. That's the secret to getting good with the objections is practice. Come up with 2 or 3 ways that you can handle them, and then bam, you're good to go. All right. Any questions? That is 12 now, right? Okay, good. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? All right. Number 6 then. Last one is systems, tools, strategies. So now, again, just as a reminder on this whole thing, this foundation is every single thing we do within this company, every training that we do, that we train the managers on, is anything they're going to do, teach, train, has to be based on one of these 6 pieces of the foundation. And it's because, again, if an agent came to me and said, I'm struggling in this business, I'm going to first say, do you understand this? Do you have goals? Do you have a plan? Do you have a schedule? How's your mindset? What are you doing to strengthen it? Do you have the discipline to do it? Do you need to get an accountability partner? How are you on these skill sets? And then the final piece is systems, tools, and strategies. So what are the systems, the tools, and the strategies that you're using? Now, so there are just on 21 Online, and again, in the technology class, we go through and talk about all this, but on 21 Online, there are a handful of systems and things that I feel like you should be familiar with. Now, some of the ones that I used to say are being replaced by this Moxie Works that we have. So, but here, so I would say in terms of Moxie, the ones you want to be familiar with is Moxie Engage. And I'm going to do more and more trainings on that over the next few months. But Moxie Engage, Moxie Present, and then the one that I'm still getting up to speed on, but I'm just about there to start doing some training on it, is the Moxie website. Okay. So in terms of Moxie, those are the systems that you want to get familiar with, is knowing how to use the Moxie Engage, Moxie Present, and Moxie websites. Okay. The other ones that are on there on 21 Online that you want to become familiar with is Golden Ruler. Golden Ruler is a tool that'll send to your seller, and you can set up the frequency. I always recommend once a week. It'll send to them an email of here's the number of views their property got online. Now remember, we talked about price reductions. That is a great tool that you're going to use as part of helping to get price reductions if the house isn't selling. So you want to get familiar with the Golden Ruler system. And then the other one is Unique Property Websites, which I did find out I wasn't at. Well, let me first, I'll finish on Unique Property Websites. Unique Property Websites is every time we take a listing, what's going to happen is Century 21 will take the photos from the MLS, they'll take some of the remarks or the information from the MLS, and they will create a website for that property. And it ends up being the address of the property .c21.com is what the Unique Property website is. But they're going to all take your photos then and create a YouTube video that has somebody talking, saying this home features and then however many bedrooms and how many baths and all that kind of stuff. And that takes place on this Unique Property website. So that's one you want to get familiar with. So the other one that I system that I used to talk about, which we'll still have. So there's 3 that are going away that have been replaced basically by these 3. And that is Business Builder, Zap, and Toolkit CMA. So the CMA is the Moxie Present. Zap would be the Moxie Engage and the website. And then there's actually also one called Moxie Impress, but I haven't been that impressed with Impress. So I don't feel like it's that impressive yet. So we're going to work on that to get it more impressive. And then we'll start really training on it. But that's where you could get flyers and things like that. So really, these are the main tools that I would say you should become familiar with in terms of the systems, tools, and strategies that you're going to want to use as part of your business. So, all right, questions, comments. We've lost people on Zoom. As soon as I said put your name in, they put their name in and jumped off. I don't know if that's true. No, the ones that dropped off didn't even put their name in. So, anything else?
I had one about objections and the common ones. Is there a list that I can get that are the most common? Like I scribbled down some notes, but if I could just get a compiled list of the common objections that you see, that would be helpful.
Do you have a script book?
I don't think so, not yet.
Okay,
I'm clear out here. I'm clear out here in Vernal, so I'm not close to an office. So
right.
and I'm new, so
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, but so inside the script book, and I don't know how you probably can.
okay. Yeah, I can see it just fine. Thanks.
In here, we'll get you a script book. It has all of the objections, the most common ones. So I'll give them to you so you can write them down real quick if you want.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll find out too. Will you throw in that was Megan who was talking, right?
Yeah.
You put your email address in the chat box, and then I'll see if I can get you a digital copy of this.
Thank you.
So, but the first one is I have a friend in the business.
Uh-huh.
We want to think about it, or I need to talk to my spouse.
Yeah.
I only want to give you a 30 or 60 or 90, I want to give you a shorter listing. That one
Okay.
doesn't come up that often, honestly, but
Okay.
we're thinking of using a different company.
Okay.
We'll save the commission by selling it ourselves.
Okay.
The next one we have in here is basically that same one. Let's see. Let's put it at a higher price. We can always come down later.
Okay.
And we want to sleep on it, which I guess is really would think about it too. So.
Okay. Awesome. Thank
Really
you.
the most common ones. So,
Thanks.
yeah, good. Any other questions? All right, well, a little bit short today on the time frame, but thank you for being here. So Thursday will be business plan. And so for the ones that are on Zoom, so like for Megan, I will tomorrow send out an email with a reminder about the class, and I will put the business plan. For you guys that come in person, I'll have one for you, a business plan. So Thursday will be business plan, and we'll see you then.